Joe Manganiello helped save my life. Most people know Joe Manganiello from True Blood, or if you're a DC fan, and if you're on this channel, you likely are, you know him from his brief appearances as Slade Wilson or Deathstroke and the various cameos that he had. But during a really rough time in my life, Joe Manganiello was doing press for the Snyder Cut of the Justice League movie. And some words he said really stuck with me. And they were the right words at the right time, and they have kept me going for years since. So to take you back, at the time where I was in the world had been hit with an unprecedented blizzard. We actually were losing power a lot. My wife, who had been working in a hospital, she started just prior to the original COVID outbreaks. They didn't have proper protection. They didn't have enough gear. And she and just about every other person on her floor became so sick so frequently that many of them took years to get their health back, those that did survive. It was rough, you know. That was a hard time to see that going on. The whole world was shutting down. We were frozen in. The different places around us were shuttering power off for 2 to 4 hours at a time, and sometimes they were failing to get the power back on. So I'm watching this person I care about who's already deathly ill, and I'm trying to find any way to keep her warm, any way to keep her alive. And, you know, working, trying to pay enough to keep us both going while she's recovering. And there was just a lot of other interpersonal stuff going on with our families. A lot of people we knew were dying. And it was just hard. And it was bad. And it wasn't the way the life was supposed to be. And, you know, the announcement of the Snyder Cut was cool. It was a nice, you know, little fun distraction. But it didn't... I was excited to spend 4 hours not living in the world I was stuck in at the time. That's for sure. But like any movie, book, or video game, I knew that that was going to be something I enjoyed, and then when the credits rolled, it's going to be back to work the next day. It's going to be back to struggling. And, you know, I was assuming we even would have power at the time when it launched, because, you know, they were blackouts all over the place. And Joe Manganiello and Zack Snyder both made an appearance on a stream. I'd never seen the streamer before. He was playing Injustice 2. And Joe Manganiello came on and he talked about mental health and how much it meant to him, and what shaving the mohawk onto his character for the nightmare scene meant. Like a guy who is ready to face the absolute worst, and he's not terrified of death or of a failure, of losing anyone else, and that he's made peace with that, and that he is a warrior who has nothing to hold him back now, that he's gone through a sort of crucible. And he talked about how important it was in real life and for a lot of the characters he's played to be strong and to be tough and resilient, and that when life knocks you down, you get back up. And, you know, I feel like sometimes a sort of hopeful, there'll be a ray of sunshine on the other side. It doesn't feel very real when life sucks. It doesn't, even though it happens, and even though maybe deep down somewhere, you know, statistically, yeah, things can't stay bad forever, it certainly feels like it's not going to get better at the moment. It feels like you're locked in there, like there is no escape. And that's kind of the terror of anxiety or depression or just a bad run of luck. And there was something he was talking about with the character of Slade Wilson. And, you know, he dished a whole lot of amazing details about the character in general, you know, about how he wasn't going to be a super soldier. He was just Batman's equal. He was just that good. He was a physical rival to Batman. He didn't need a serum. He was just like that tough. He was built different, you know, and all these really cool elements, the backstory he'd come up with, how he trained in martial arts he developed a one-eyed fighting stance. But something he said was, you know, about how Slade Wilson, he wasn't, you know, sticking around and tough because he believed in a better tomorrow like the superheroes maybe would. He was just too nasty to stay down, you know, like he's fucking tough, you know. And I remember I had a really bad day. It was hard. There was some bad stuff going on. And there was just a real blow to life, to self-esteem. Things were being delayed in life. And I felt like I had hit rock bottom. And I remember standing out and looking out over the yard and looking over some of the hills nearby and just kind of staring and physically working. And I had a moment where I was like, I have someone depending on me. And I don't have the luxury of feeling bad for myself right now. I got to get my ass into gear. This sucks. And I'm fucking mad. I am pissed off about this. This shit is not fair. What is happening in the world is not fair. And I got mad. And I buzzed my head. And I got to work. And I said, I'm not holding out for hope right now. I'm just too pissed off to fail. I'm going to push through this, and I'm going to get to the other side out of spite, to prove to myself and the world that no matter what you throw, I'm not staying down. Fuck you. And it worked, you know? On the other side, of course, it's hope. It's belief in a better tomorrow. It's the strength of community and of the love of those around us. But when you're in the trenches and you're facing the shit, man, having a little bit of anger on your side is a powerful motivator. Makes me think of Terminator 3 when Arnold insults John Connor so he'll stop being sad for himself and get pissed off because, you know, being pissed off, you can survive. And I don't think like doom guying your way through life is healthy mentally or physically. It's definitely not like the way to handle things. But I think that if Joe hadn't been there and hadn't been doing those things, like, you know, he's not in the Snyder Cut a whole lot. I know that it was probably for him, he was like, well, I know I can promote this. I know I'm in this. I've been supposed to be in a bunch of solo projects and ensemble movies that Warner Brothers has fumbled. So, like, on a fundamental level, I understand that maybe this was his catharsis. This was his, no matter what happens next, I've got one in the tank. I got to play him, I got to put my spin on him, and I got to promote him, and people got to hear it. But it still felt like a huge work of charity because the whole stream was about mental health. And there was, donations being given to American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And during, especially those first months of COVID, the first 6, there was a lot of what is going on. Will this ever end? Will things ever come back to normal? Will we survive? It was scary. It was tough. And it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but it also feels like it was forever ago. And Joe was there, and he was just saying kind things, and Zach showed up, and he said kind things. And they were both talking about how important it is to, like, do these fundamental elements of mental health and, community and strength and working together. And, you know, that's been such a core thesis for Zach's films is mental health and empowerment and belief, and that no matter how bad things are, the protagonist can overcome, and you don't have to sell your ethics to survive. You can remain true to yourself, and that is, you know, what matters most. That the person next to you is the world, and you worry about that, not about the whole world, you know? Not about every naysayer or issue. You just focus on the person next to you and the problem in front of you, and you solve that, and you protect them, and you keep going. And those words that Zack Snyder and Joe Manganiello shared saved me. They really did, because I was hopeless and I was helpless. At least I felt helpless, you know. Obviously I got through it. I got so pissed off at the way things had fallen apart that I worked harder to try and make ends meet, and it parlayed me into a series of connections in industries I never imagined I was going to make it in. I got to work with name brands that I never imagined would even know my name. I got to talk with people who were the CEOs and like chairmen of enormous foundations, nonprofits, and corporations of brands that people like you probably have products of or have certainly listened to the music of. But I went so much further, so much faster than I ever thought I could out of this, and resiliency of I've seen rock bottom and it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I've felt powerless. I've been counted out. I've seen jobs that were a sure thing fall apart. I've seen the bank account getting scarily slim. You know, I've seen the car payment coming due and wondered, okay, is this going to be feasible? You know, we had those months during those months of COVID, during like the first year, really. It was scary for everyone. And I got to the bottom, and I realized that I was alive and that I hadn't been defeated. And I got up and I said, fuck you, world. I'm still standing. I just kept imagining Deathstroke missing an eye and being like, I'm still here, motherfucker. You can't put me down. And I just fucking charged. I put all my energy and my anxiety into activity and action, in the belief that if I pushed hard enough, eventually I would break through and I would find something. And I did. And, you know, I'm in a much better place now. Me and my whole family are. Things are so much better now. I'm not in a mansion with a Maserati yet. I mean, personally, I'd probably just get like an old, like, Adam West Corvette replica. I think that would be cool, but with like a spot for a dog in it, because obviously I'm going to take a dog or two with me if I'm going on a trip in an open cockpit designed car. I mean, how do you not enjoy that? But life got better, and there was a long time when I really didn't think it would. If any of you have had like a really bad time, and I think given the time frame we've all lived through, surely you have. You don't have to suffer from depression or anxiety or stress issues to have just been stressed over the last few years. You've looked around and just felt like there was nothing to grab onto. There was no way out. You were locked in the darkness, and it was over. But I'm here to tell you that it isn't. You know, you look at the darkness and you just push forward. You just take a beat and you collect yourself and you keep moving. And eventually things change. And without what Joe Manganiello was saying and showing up at a moment when I just wanted to tune out of life. I just wanted to think about superheroes and a movie, and I was just tired and sad and sick myself, still recovering from the first or second bout of getting COVID myself. I'm working my ass off, tired, barely able to sleep. I'm in so much pain. And, this escape turned into a genuine life-saving piece of information that impacted my life. And, I know that Ben Affleck said something similar at the Full Circle event, that people walk up to him and Batman is the role where they're like, dude, you saved my life. You showed me that no one's too far gone. You can always turn it around. And, I didn't necessarily need that message at that moment. What I needed was what Joe said. And I loved what Zach said, but I couldn't even tell you the exact things that came out of his mouth all these years later. But I can tell you exactly the way that what Joe said made me feel. It made me feel like I didn't have to trust a cat poster to get me out of the dark times. I could just buckle down, and when you survive what you think is unsurvivable, you suddenly start to believe in yourself. And even though you don't know what's going to happen next, you can start moving and you can start making change happen. And eventually something will give and you'll see the light again. So that's why these movies mean so much to me. That's why these characters mean so much. Man of Steel came out when I really needed hope, when I'd lost some really close friends, and it was rough for me. That was hard to go over, to sort of grieve. And a message about resiliency and hope, I needed that. I needed that then and there, and it saved me then. Henry Cavill and Zack Snyder and David Goyer and Chris Nolan gave me something to believe in. And Hans Zimmer's music, You Better Fucking Believe, was part of my gym playlist. It was part of my, you need a pick-me-up, here you go, flight. There you go, listen to it. Having a bad day, put the movie on in the background. Just psych yourself up. Get your work done. And years later, here comes Joe, out of nowhere, and he just says the right words on the right stream that I just happened to tune into. And, I was there to see Zack Snyder. I didn't even expect to see Joe or hear any cool stuff, let alone get a life lesson out of it. But he saved my life that night. And the words of resiliency and knuckling down and just finding something in yourself you didn't know you had, it is the reason that my wife still has a husband. It is the reason that my family still has like a son or a brother. It's the reason I am still here, and I will, for the rest of my life, be grateful for what these movies mean and what these people have done when darkness seems everywhere. They showed us a light, and that is the most invaluable life-saving thing that a hero can ever do. So, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to end this one. I guess I'll just say that there's always something worth fighting for, even when you can't see it. And rock bottom, it isn't nearly as scary as you think it is. And once you get there, you can always fight your way back out of it. You just have to rise to the challenge. Even if, whether it's on hope or it's on spite, refusing to give up, use that motivation as the jet fuel to push you to new heights. Because believe me, you can do it. I believe in you. If no one else does, you, the person listening right now, I believe in you. And I want to see you succeed.